A very good day to all of you out there. This is Admav here with another episode of Admav's Corner. Welcome back to the podcast on this September the 2nd, 2022. I can't believe we're 9 months into the year now, and there's only 3 months left. But here we are. Time just keeps flying. And I'm sure you can all relate to that feeling where it just feels like the days are blending in with each other. I mean, we're not even in isolation anymore. It's not the worst of the COVID days are behind us, and we don't have to be stuck at home all the time. But yeah, the effect of time passing so rapidly is still here, and yeah, I can't believe it's September. I can't believe it's been a year since I traveled to the Philippines in 2021, and I talk about that story in a previous episode. I think it's episode 8. I think 8. Yeah, I believe it's episode 8, if not 7. But anyways, yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope that you're finding time for yourself, to rest, to enjoy life, to appreciate what life has to offer. Because, like I said, time goes by so quickly that we sometimes don't notice it passing by. And then we finally notice it and we're like, oh, I haven't really done much in the last few months other than work, because mostly that is the case. We just get so caught up with our careers or work, making money, getting things done. And, for those that enjoy that, more power to you. But there's still a balance that I think everyone has to sort of find. It's always about balance. Speaking of which, I'm not going to say that I'm out of balance or anything like that, but it's been a very tiring week. Past couple of weeks, to be honest. I also talk about this a little bit on the last podcast that I recorded, but yeah, this week has been pretty, I wouldn't say rough. I've had much rougher weeks, but it's been kind of a tiring week. And it's actually kind of funny. It largely stemmed from this, I guess you could call it, I get it is a nightmare. Several of them, actually. I go to work between Sunday to Thursday. Those are my working days. I have Friday and Saturday off. So on Sunday, the day before, or the hours before work, because I was sleeping, I had these set of nightmares. I can't remember all the details, but I can remember exactly what happened that made me feel so shit. Because I woke up that Sunday feeling pretty messed up. Like I felt so low. I felt like I woke up fresh from bed and I was feeling fucked up. Sorry, pardon my French. I swear on here sometimes, but yeah, I woke up and I felt so out of it. Like something terrible just happened, but I can't remember the details. But within the dream, as I was talking about previously, I just remember being stabbed several times in the dream, and so I died from that in the dream. But that's not the first time I died in the dream, because a little later after that, there was a sequence where I don't know where I was. Like I was cornered somewhere, like in a room, and there was this giant, like massive raging torrent of water about to crash onto me, and I had no choice but to just accept it, stand there and accept it, and accept my fate. And everything went black when it crashed down onto me. I also felt, for some reason, I don't know what happened in the sequence exactly in this part of the dream, but I felt abandoned or something. Like I felt like I was abandoned, and I'm not sure if that speaks to anything in real life. I don't really buy into dream analysis. But the feeling of being abandoned and the emotions that come with that feeling felt so real at the time, like when I was in the dream. And it was tough. when I woke up, I still had like leftover feelings of that, and it really did feel like someone had abandoned me. I'm not sure, but it was painful. It sucked, and it really flavored my week because when I went to work that day, later on that day in the afternoon, I was so out of it. I was just like, man, I just need to get through these 8 hours and go home because I really don't want to be here right now. I feel out of sorts. So yeah, that's how my week started. But I will say, despite that, I still, as I normally do, I have self conversations. I talk to myself as if I'm talking to a good friend, right? I always try to remind you guys that that's a very healthy thing to do. You have to treat yourself like a friend, like a close friend, like somebody you love. And I was still able to practice that, trying to analyze, how I felt and maybe if there's anything that I need to address or look into. And that helped some. And that actually helped sort of, I was still tired, but it somewhat recentered me, you know, and I was able to see other things, specifically good things, things that are positive. And that's what I realized, even though I'm having a pretty down week, pretty much the lowest I've felt in months, actually. Even though I've been having a tough week, I was able to still see the positives in it and still was able to appreciate those good things, and I was still able to laugh and smile. So I'm proud of myself for that. I'm happy for me because that's something that I previously had very little ability to do for myself. So for me to be able to do that and to hang in there and sort of make it through, and I think I made it through the worst of it, though there may still be some leftover stuff, but I feel a little bit better. Good things did happen this week, along with the not so good things. A good friend of mine at work finally returned after a month of leave. He had to take care of some family matters. But he's back now, and it's really good to see him. That's my good friend Hunter. Hey, Hunter, shout out to you. I'm not using your real name because because I'm just keeping my friend's privacy intact. And then I do this for all my other friends. I give them code names on this podcast, and for you, it's Hunter. And I know you're gonna love that and laugh at that. Um, Shout out to you. I know you listen to these podcasts sometimes, so thank you. I really appreciate it, man. And seriously, I want to thank you a lot because you really encouraged me to do this. And we're 15 episodes in. We're 15 episodes strong. And even though sometimes weekly I struggle to do this because my energy levels are low, or that I feel like I have nothing to say of note, I'm still doing it. I'm still here, and here we are, 8 minutes into this podcast already. I'm actually going to have a pretty busy weekend. Just gonna go on a little cottage getaway with the family, and so I wanted to make sure I get this podcast done though, because there are some things I want to say. Still this week, there's still some things on my mind. Also, shout out to my friend Cello. Cello is a good guy, and he's also a friend from work, and we'd always wanted to chill and hang out and shoot the shit, but we haven't had a real good chance to. But last night we were able to, right after work. We just went to McDonald's, grabbed some late night snacks, and just sat at the parking lot talking shit, and it was a great time. It was a great conversation, and I'm glad to have known you better. So shout out to you, Cello, as well. So these are some just the good things that happened this week that I'm able to sort of appreciate and put into perspective, so that not to disregard the negative stuff or the stuff that didn't feel so good. I'm not disregarding it, but it's a way to just balance that, Yes, I have to acknowledge that. Yes, I have to acknowledge the truth that there were these moments where I didn't feel too good and that I was really low. But there are also things on the other end of the spectrum. So it kind of balances it out, and I'm able to be. I mean, I'm always grateful, but I'm able to feel a little bit more grateful because of that. Um, so I was kind of thinking about this week. It's just something that was going through my head. You know, when we're children, when we're kids, we have this level of reliance on our parents. And, I'm speaking from a point of view from a person that was fortunate to have that, because I understand that some kids, they don't have the luxury of having caring parents. Um, one, let alone both uh, of their parents. And some don't even have both parents, and some don't. So I want to first of all acknowledge that, and because I know that that's a different situation, and I'm sure that has its challenges and difficulties as well. But for, I guess, a lot of us, we grew up in that traditional sort of household with a mom and a dad. And I was just thinking of when we were kids, we just had this reliance on them, and not just our parents, to other adults as well, like our teachers, if you were in sports, or coaches, if you were doing extracurricular studying, our tutors, etc. You understand, you get the point. You kind of just trust these adults to lead the way, to help you navigate the world as you're growing, as you're learning about things and learning about the world around you and how things work. These people, these adults are here to help you out. But then you sort of reach a certain age where, especially me, I'm 32, where you're kind of just like, hey, like, sorry, something dropped and distracted me. Yeah, so you're kind of thinking like, well, maybe just because of where I am in life, I tend to, or how I tend to think about these things. Maybe other people my age don't really think about it this way, but it's like you're an adult now, but you don't really feel like it. But you know how to sort of behave like an adult. You know the responsibilities and things that you have to tend to and take care of. But you're like, I mean, I still feel like me. Maybe it's me, maybe it's just the way that I am. And I don't want to overgeneralize for everyone, but I've had conversations with people that feel very similarly to this. And you just kind of realize that there really are no adults. There's like just this point where you become an adult and you don't even know it. And you're just like, huh? What? And then you just kind of accept it. It's just one of those things where you're like, I don't really feel like an adult. Like, I don't really feel like that thing that I looked up to, those people that I looked up to when I was younger and sort of led the way. And when you're a kid, you have this like, you kind of have this faith that these people know what they're doing for sure. Like, oh, they're adults. They know for sure what they're doing. They're set. They're certain. But then now that I'm at this point in my life, I'm like, oh man, these people are just as confused as as the kids were, except they've gone through more experiences, so they know how to handle certain things better. But they're still clueless. They're still unsure of where things are headed. They're still unsure of like how life is going to turn out. And again, I don't want to generalize. Of course, there are people that are more, in tune with the path that they're on, and they feel more sure about where they're headed. But for the most part, all these like uncertainties, the anxieties about tomorrow, they still kind of plague the minds of people that are of an age that we considered as, grown up, an adult when we were children. And that got me to kind of think about things, because I feel like, and this is just a personal thought of mine, I'm not sure if this has really been studied or anything like that. This is just a personal opinion and how I kind of feel, but it feels like that anxiety of uncertainty and that need to sort of try to figure things out and have things under control or your desire for things to be under control. It's sort of like when you're a child and you're relying on that adult, right? It's sort of like this person's going to take care of things. I don't really have to worry. Things will be fine. There's this adult here. Here's mom and dad are here. They'll take care of me, even like if I don't know how to handle something. And this is sort of why, like later on in life, you want to try to teach your kid to be more independent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's very important. That's very needed. And I'm not here to talk about that, but I'm here to talk about that sort of unwavering belief in the adult up until a certain age. And then you just expect the adult to find a way to figure things out, or to help you out with whatever you're going through, whatever you're dealing with. At least in the best of circumstances. Again, this isn't like a circumstance that everyone is fortunate to have. But that got me thinking to me now, as an adult, as a 32-year-old man, still having doubts and anxieties about where things are headed in the future and stuff like that. Things of that nature. And I realized, I really started to think that feeling of, anxiety and sort of being anxious about the uncertainty of things to come or things that are, that sort of is like that inner child in you still. I mean, yes, we mature as we age. We become wiser about things. We gain more knowledge. We gain more experience, so forth. But it's like that kid never went away. It's just something that we don't need to tap into anymore. It's something that we've moved on from. But that childlike part of yourself is still within you, somewhere in there, in your psyche. It's just something that we don't need to tap into anymore. We don't need it at the forefront. It's something that we just stored away, and seldomly, very, very, very seldomly do we reach in for. And even if we do, it's sort of like this half-assed thing where we just kind of, browse through it, right? It's on the bookshelf. We're not actually reading it. We just browse every now and then when we need it, like when we're playing, like with our own kids, or like if we have a nephew or niece, or our friends' kids. When you spend time with them, you kind of have to pull a little bit of that childlike behavior and wonder to interact with the kids, so that they can sort of relate to you a bit more, because they can't relate to you if you're just behaving like an adult, obviously. But that, as I said, it's still sort of a part of you. It's still sort of in there. But now that you're an adult, it's like you can't rely on because you're an adult yourself. And that got me to thinking that it's sort of that relationship that you used to have with the adults. It's like that relationship that you used to have with your parents. It's like you just have to kind of trust in them. So in that same breath, it's sort of like you have to trust in yourself. Because there's this part of you in the present now. Like, I'm specifically just using myself as an example. As a 32-year-old man, there's this part of me that's matured. There's this part of me that has responsibilities and has taken care of things, and have developed abilities to be able to do so. To function and to live in this world. So that childlike part of me, or that part of me that still gets anxious about the uncertainty of things, that can cause me to feel low, can cause me to feel down and depressed. That childlike part, I sort of have to, like we did when we were younger, rely on that grown-up part. But it's still, when I'm talking about this, it's still you. When I'm talking about this, it's and using me as an example, it's still me. Like, I have to rely on me. And so that sort of brings this kind of new meaning, at least to me, about with the that saying that we hear very often when you tell somebody, or when someone tells you, to trust in yourself. It's like that childlike part of you that needs an adult, needs the grown-up, needs mom or dad to sort of anchor you and make you feel safe and make you feel like things are going to work out. You kind of have to cultivate that in yourself. You have to place that, you have to take those feelings and then trust in the part of you that has grown, that has matured, that has become an adult through the experiences that you've had, through the trials that you've gone through, that you've overcome. You just kind of have to be able to place that faith in yourself, place that trust in yourself that things will be okay, and they will be. Dark times do pass. It's not just a saying. It's not just like this nice thing that you hear. It's not just this, beautiful line from movies like Lord of the Rings. Dark times really do pass. But it's just that sometimes it's hard to get through it because you don't know. You're uncertain of what's on the other end. And I had this we kind of had this conversation, Cello and I, last night, which is part of the reason why I felt so kind of like not happy, but fulfilled a little bit to be able to talk about this with one of my friends. Learn to trust in yourself, because you can't rely on anybody else to do that. It's nice that there are people in your life that trust you and make you feel like you can be trusted, whether it's a family member or a very close friend or your partner, your significant other. But it's best to not rely on that to prove to yourself that you're trustworthy and that you can trust you to be okay, for things to be okay. You have to rely on yourself first and foremost. You have to be able to trust in your own self and your own abilities that you can make it through the dark times, despite how difficult it feels, despite the uncertainty. And this all just ties back to what I always kind of preach on here, is to learn to love yourself. And again, it's not about being arrogant or misplaced feelings of overconfidence in your own abilities. It's about being self-aware. It's about accepting those things that you're self-aware about, accepting yourself for who you are, your faults, and your light, the good things about you. You have to be able to accept both. That's what loving yourself is about. It's not so that you can always like gas yourself up, hype yourself up, make everyone know that you're the best. And no, it's not about that. It's not about bravado and showing off. No, it's about being able to accept yourself and working with the things that you have, the good and the bad. And that's how you maximize yourself as a person. And that's what helps in an individual to develop that sense of love for themselves, that sense of care for themselves, and that sense of trust for themselves. So I want to wish you guys a great weekend. And for those I don't know where else this is observed, but I know in the US and Canada, I think the US is. Yeah, I think the US too. It's Labor Day weekend, so it's a long weekend, so enjoy it. Summer is at its tail end here, so enjoy whatever sun and warm weather we have left. Just go out there, enjoy life, and remember, be a friend to yourself, love yourself, trust yourself. Until next time, take care.